Hey everybody, welcome to Leading Thriving Cities. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners. This is our show where we shine a spotlight on leadership in public service, and we have deep conversations about sustainability and how we build a thriving future for our cities. Today's guest is Austin Bleess. He's the city manager of Jersey Village, Texas. Austin has done something fascinating. He recently went on a month-long sabbatical. And as far as we know, Jersey Village is still standing. I think he's an interesting case where it proves that it is possible to truly care for ourselves so that we can thrive in public service. I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation. Thanks for joining us today on Leading Thriving Cities. Austin, thank you so much for doing this, man. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We've been working on this for a while, I think. I think we first talked like a year and a half ago, like, hey, we should do this. So this will be fun. So you're from Jersey Village, Texas. Roughly how big? Give people a little bit of context.
Yeah, so Jersey Village, we're right at the corner of Beltway 8 and US 290, northwest side of Houston. We're 3.5 square miles, about 8,000 people.
Yeah, but right in the middle of the Houston metro area. 20
minutes to downtown. We're very close. It's definitely a commuter city. A lot of people can get downtown. We have a lot of people passing through the city limits every day on US 290. So we're definitely right in the thick of things.
It occurs to me we need to do a show to contrast an 8,000 person town out in the middle of nowhere in West Texas versus in the middle of a metro area. I would imagine those problems are pretty wildly different that y'all deal with.
Yeah. And actually, I kind of have that firsthand coming from Caribou, Maine before Jersey Village, Texas. You know, we had 8,000 people in Caribou at that point, and it's about...
And if it's called Caribou, I'm guessing it's in a small, isolated area.
Yeah. And it's, about 70 square miles for 8,000 people versus 8,000 people in 3.5 square miles.
Yeah.
Caribou, Maine is in Aroostook County. Aroostook County has twice the land mass of Harris County and about 76,000 people in that county compared to Harris County, which is a couple million.
Yes.
It was definitely a little bit of a difference coming from northern Maine to Houston, Texas. It's been great, but it was a little eye-opening for especially for my kids who were young at the time and just coming to the big city, but it was fun.
Well, and you've been in city management for a long time now, and I think it's one of those fairly misunderstood professions. Everybody thinks the mayor runs the city, and in some cases that's true, but not always, right? And so I'm curious, what would you have people know about leadership in public service that maybe they don't know?
Yeah, that's a great question. Leadership in public service is all about trying to make the community a better place. For me, it's how do I make the city better than what I found it? And the things that we do, part of the reason why I love what I do is because the things I'm doing make an impact on my neighbors, my friends, the families in the neighborhood. We've got 3 kids, and so we love the parks. We're there quite frequently. And anytime we can add something new to the park, we're always there. I'm always testing it out right alongside the kids and having fun. And my kids love it. Like they're able to help kind of pick colors or whatever it is. And, at the open houses where we do those things. But they get to be like, hey, Dad, we designed this park. I'm like, yeah, you had a voice in that park for sure. I mean, just like all the other kids, but they love it. And that's the part for me, like the leadership there is just trying to, how do you lead that city well? And sometimes you got to be the leader that tells them what they don't want to hear. Like, hey, we've got infrastructure that's 50 years old and we need to replace it. Some of it's, a little bit older. We need to replace this before we have a catastrophic failure. You look around, you see water plants or sewer plants that fail, and that's a bad situation in every sense of the word.
Yes. We'll call it a messy situation.
A messy situation, yeah. But it's sometimes you have to tell people what they don't want to hear and explain what's going on underground that people aren't going to see. So that's not always easy either.
There's an amount of courage required in city management to be the one to have those conversations. How have you always navigated that? Early in your career, were you really, really good at having those hard conversations, or was it a bit of a challenge for you?
Oh, it's been a challenge. I feel like I've grown with the career. I feel like everybody probably does in the same thing, because it's not always easy to tell people what needs to be said. And that goes for tough conversations with citizens or with staff. You have to get past the worry or concern that, hey, this person is not going to like that, and if you're talking to your council like, hey, we need to do millions of dollars worth of projects because of all these reasons.
Yeah.
They might not like that. They might not have the money for it. There's all the things that could be going on in the background.
Yeah.
But you still have to have the courage to say the tough things out loud.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, you're not growing, A, as a person, or B, as a community. Like you can't ignore things to the point of no return, because when you get to that point of no return, it's going to be way more costly. Look, you don't have to look very far. In the Houston area, you've seen wastewater treatment plants fall.
Yeah.
Mississippi, with the water struggles and those types of things, like you can't be that type of a community that's thriving if you have all those issues. So, making sure that we're replacing the infrastructure as it ages, before it breaks, is very important. And a lot of people, I think one of the previous guests on this show talked about how it's people go out to the new shiny city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit cheaper to build out there because you don't have to replace things. You don't have to go dig up people's yards and those types of things.
Yep.
But the cost is worth the cost to repair is definitely worth the cost to do it. You've got to keep that community thriving.
Well, and every bit of it starts with taking that responsibility of what I do now echoes into the future.
Right.
And do I have the courage to do that? And what's interesting, I think you've hit on something here. I think as human beings, we all have a core need to be loved and supported.
Yeah.
And that need to be loved sometimes, when I'm going to go say a thing that the majority are not going to like, they may not love me. And I think that's what stops a lot of people, because I hear often where cities don't tackle these things at all and people avoid it. And then somebody else has to deal with it in the future.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where if you're not going to tackle the big issues, I mean, you might not be cut out for the role, honestly, because you've got to be able to you have to be able to tackle the issues, to confront the problems head on, and really be willing to say, this is what we need to do to fix it, and ask around, because you're not going to have all the answers, but you can see things on the horizon, talk with other city managers, other cities.
Yeah.
How have they fixed the issue? How have they gone after it? Because there's not a lot of new things in city management. There are a lot of issues that somebody else has
solved it at some point.
Up in Maine, one of those issues for me was the secession movement.
Interesting.
Maine has an interesting way that a group can form a secession committee, so to split the city into two.
Oh, wow.
And sure enough, there was another city manager that had gone through that process, and him and I had some great conversations to learn about how that process works up there.
That ability to reach out and ask for help, was that something you've had to learn how to do as well, or were you always pretty natural at that?
That was one of the lessons that was kind of ingrained in me from my first internship in local government.
Yeah.
And then my first boss in local government for full-time. Both of them are like, you need to be involved with the City Management Association, get on the listserv, reach out to people, build that network, and when you have questions, ask. Yeah. Never be afraid to ask a question. Mm-hmm. Somebody's thinking the same question someplace along the line in their career, and it's you need to be able to learn from people, and also share what you've learned. I'll always remember it was probably a year into my first city administrator role. Mm-hmm. And on the listserv was an email from the city administrator in the hometown that I grew up in. Like I knew him, went to school with his daughter, and asking a question that I knew the answer to, and I was able to share that knowledge with him. Yeah. That was kind of a fun moment for me on a personal level of being able to share that with him.
I really
my
like
hometown.
That.
So
well, and it takes courage to say things to people they may not want to hear. It takes courage to be vulnerable and say, "Hey, I need help. I don't know this. Can you help me?" A lot of that comes down to how we lead ourselves. Our definition of healthy leadership is we are spiritually, emotionally, and physically oriented towards health. Mm. You do something interesting in that you have set goals for your year, and you're very active on LinkedIn, which is how you and I first connected. And you don't just set the goals. Setting goals is super easy. You post updates. You're like, here's the things I'm doing. And what I've loved is there's a mixture of, I'm kind of struggling in this right now, or I'm really nailing this. So as you've kind of gone on that journey, as you lead yourself more effectively and kind of publicly to say, here's what I'm committed to, have you found it easier to have the courage to do the right thing and to have those hard conversations and to be vulnerable when you're taking care of yourself more?
I have. I think it's one of those things for me. Goals have always been a big thing, and I've always been good at goals and setting goals and achieving goals. You can ask my wife. Sometimes it's for the better. Sometimes maybe not always.
Even when the goals are big and crazy?
Even when they're big and crazy. That's right. But I've always been one to set a goal and go after it. And adding that public part on LinkedIn, especially where it's, it's usually kind of polished. And when you miss a goal, that's not always a polished thing. But it's kind of being that vulnerable out there on the social media like that has been good for me to help show my staff. Because there's a number of my staff members that follow me or were connected with on LinkedIn. And some of the things that I'm posting there, especially as it relates to goals, they'll come up and talk with me about. They'll ask me questions about. They'll want to know what's going on or how's the goal going. One of the goals is 10,000 steps a day, a couple days a week, and
which takes intention, by the way.
It does.
You don't accidentally walk 10,000 steps.
No. But there's a walking treadmill, under the desk treadmill that I've claimed co-ownership with another city employee. So I haul it back and forth down the hallway every day, and it stops after 99 minutes. So once it stops, and I can be done walking on that anyway for the day. But that usually is about 9,000 steps in a day. So.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm still getting my work done. I'm responding to the emails and stuff. Obviously, if there's thinking tasks that I need to do, walking's not always the easiest. But being intentional about the goals and how you're going to achieve those has been big. And it's being that vulnerable, like I said, has helped the other staff members to set their own goals. And I've seen a few of them post their goals on LinkedIn, and just going after the things, which has been awesome to see.
You know what's interesting? We talk a lot about creating a culture of growth. And that starts with, how are we as leaders growing? Are we investing in ourselves? Because I think it's easy for people to look up the chain and go, well, they've just got it figured out. And the reality is none of us have it figured out. And growth is a practice. It's an ongoing thing that we're doing. And so modeling that, when we model it, we start to see changes below us. We start to see the people follow us. They'll talk to us about it, or they'll share their goals. They'll start setting new goals. I've seen that with our small team, and you've now experienced that with yours. So as you've modeled that a little more publicly, and people have started to see that, have you noticed them starting to set new goals and kind of get in that growth practice?
Yeah, definitely. And part of our review process, there's always goals have kind of always been a part of it, but we've been intentional the last few years to make sure that they're SMART goals and that we're checking in on those every quarter, however frequently, making sure that our staff are hitting those. And that's been super helpful.
Yeah.
I've seen a number of departments now kind of take on that for everybody else in their department. It's a little bit of a push for sure, but kind of going after some of the big goals that might not seem possible. And it kind of starts off with hey, we want to get accredited. Okay, so the first step in that goal is, what does that look like? What is the process, the timelines?
Yeah.
What can we learn about
Create
it?
a plan,
Yeah. And so the first goal is really like, we're going to evaluate this. This is what we want to do. This is the ultimate goal. But then you've got the mini goals in between of how do you get that? And you start that roadmap. And that's been big for our staff as well. Yeah. Because they can kind of see the roadmap and explaining the why as to why that would be a good thing down the way. That's been helpful. So just watching the staff come up with their own goals and take goals from the department heads or myself, that's been fun to watch, because they've really gotten in on some of those fun things that they can make changes within their departments.
Yeah, that's exciting. Do you see them, in addition to goals, as far as here's what we want to accomplish at work together as a team? Do you see them having conversations about personal goals, about how they invest in themselves or their growth? Because what's interesting is what you post on LinkedIn is not, hey, here's a goal we have as a city and we're going to try to, it's, hey, I'm going to do this and this and this because I know they're good for me.
Yeah.
Do you see that conversation starting to happen more?
Seen it a little bit. And it can vary from, I need to get into better shape. And so you see that goal and people kind of taking the action, see that, whether that be, more exercise, eating better, whatever. Some of it's, there's this knowledge gap that I have in my position, and I want to go get this training or certificate or a master's degree in whatever it is. And we've seen some of those, which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's really trying to make sure that people are looking at it from the whole, their whole self, because it's not just what's the city goal or what's the department goal, but what's their personal goal? And for me, I always like to have the conversation of what's your long-term goal? Like, where do you want to be in
Where do you
5
want to be?
years?
Yeah.
You know, some cities don't have a lot of upward growth. We're a small city. We've got about 115 employees, and most of those are, police, fire, EMS. So there's not a lot of upward mobility for some of the roles. We've created a little bit over the last few years, created an assistant city manager position, a couple more manager type positions, utilizing people leaving and just kind of those open spaces. We didn't, force anybody out, but a couple people chose, and that opened to the opportunity.
Yeah.
So trying to get people that are um, wanting to serve in local government and providing them with a path forward or a path up to see what that looks like for them. And it's been fun. I've got several people in my staff that I think someday could be a great city manager. Some of them might be, some of them don't want to be, which is fine, but they're going to continue to make great leaders in whatever roles that they are, hopefully with the city. But if they were to move on to a bigger city or bigger opportunity, that's great. Like, that's still something that I think I can be proud of and the city can be proud of we make good leaders that can step into other roles in other cities and do great things there.
I think there's the micro level of we're trying to make Jersey Village as healthy and thriving as possible. That requires great leaders. So we're going to develop great leaders. At a macro level, some of those leaders are going to go on to other cities and other things. And that's victory.
Right.
We should celebrate that. If we become a pipeline for people to develop their lives and their careers, that gets into the stewardship piece of, while I'm leading you, I am stewarding your career and your health while you're with me. And so I'm going to do everything I can to support you. That gets to be really exciting because there's not a lot of people that take that on.
Right.
They're so busy just with the day-to-day tasks of running the city that then to actually steward people's lives it's interesting. And there's times when that's super fun and easy. There's times when it's really hard. I've had some conversations where city managers are like, hey, this person got hurt and it will change their entire life and they really can't work here anymore. But how do we help them anyway? That's a hard thing.
Yeah, that is tough. And we've had a few cases like that too. And whether it's their own personal medical or whatever the case is, but how do you support them? And we've done a lot to try and build a supportive network in our community or in the city staff. And the council's been fantastic. They've been very supportive of a lot of the things that we've done. They've been actually the driver behind some of the policies, like our parental leave policy. We do 12 weeks paid parental leave for mothers and fathers.
That's amazing.
I think we're probably one of the only cities, maybe the only that does 12 weeks. But they've been very supportive. The council has been very supportive of staff in that regard. They want to make sure that staff is taken care of from benefits, but salaries too. But on the flip side, we expect a lot out of the staff. Like we don't let people coast. You're not going to coast in these roles and just kind of think you're going to get by. No, we've got demands on of job duties that you have to get done, and you need to do them well. Like, we have high expectations for this as well, and that serves the residents extremely well.
Yeah. We always talk about the idea that we want everybody at the end of the day in public service to be tired but fulfilled.
Right.
We're going to be tired because we are going to work incredibly hard, but we're fulfilled because the work matters. It makes a difference. And if the city loves us and takes care of us in the process, that's going to allow that fulfilled to happen more often. That's amazing. So on this journey, you've obviously grown a lot. When you're focused on growth and self, there's a lot that happens in there. What's some of the biggest things you've had to overcome in your city management career internally for yourself to be a better city manager? Yeah.
I think probably some of the biggest ones for me is having the crucial conversations. It's having a tough conversation with somebody is not fun always. And when I was younger, I would probably avoid those a little bit more than I should.
Yeah.
And I've learned that having those tough conversations is very important. If people are not doing what you expect them, if they're not leading their department like you want that to be led, if they're not having that same sense of responsibility or task management, like I need to make sure that I'm holding my staff accountable. And so having those tough conversations saying you're failing in XYZ categories, this is how we can help. This is how I can help you. This is how you can help your staff. And this is how we can move forward in a better way. Sometimes that works well. Sometimes it doesn't. And, you have to make the tough decisions. But that's one of the things that having the crucial conversations is a lesson that I've learned along the way.
Which is similar to having those same things with the council and the citizens themselves.
Right.
How have you developed that courage? Is it you've just done it enough? You're like, okay, I can survive this, or there's specific things you've learned through the process?
Yeah, both. One of the things I've learned is that it's usually better on the other side. I'll build up in my head like all the reasons, all the ways it could go sideways in the conversation. What all the responses could be, and that you kind of build up the boogeyman, really. But most of the time, it's not been as bad on the other side. There's always a little bit of a day or so afterwards, but when you get past that and you can see the positive gains that have come from it, that makes it all worthwhile. So knowing that, the first day or so could be tough after that conversation, but getting through it and seeing the positive benefit, the positive impact of that tough conversation on the organization or in the relationship with counsel or whatever the case may be, that's worth it.
Yeah. You recently had an experience. You have done something that is highly unusual in city management, but I think should be the norm. You took a 5-week sabbatical. Yeah. Talk to us about that, because I think most city managers go, there's no way it's possible. And I think there will even be some in larger cities, 30, 40, 50, 100,000 people go, well, that's easy for him. But you're modeling what is possible. And I'm a firm believer it's possible for everybody if we're willing to put things in place and do the right things. And so I'm curious, A, how this came about, and B, how did you run up to this sabbatical in order to make it as successful as it could possibly be?
Yeah. So the sabbatical actually came from a conversation with the council, like, what can we do for you that might not be salary related? Yeah. And so the sabbatical was a 5-week sabbatical is an option I put out there, and they agreed to it, which is great. So,
and it's every 5 years,
every
right?
5 years.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So, I have to schedule it. The mayor has to agree to the timing of it. And this year, the timing got adjusted for a couple personal reasons for staff that would be taking and filling up some of the roles for me while I was gone. Yeah. But it was great. So the 2 months leading up to it had probably bi-weekly meetings with my assistant city manager, one of the roles we created. And hey, here's the projects that I'm working on. Here's all the issues. And writing that all out. Like I had probably a 20-page Word document for him that we'd go over like every couple of weeks, and I'd update it kind of every week with the latest and newest information, just so he knew what was going on. Yeah. And he's like, okay, so what haven't you put in here that I'm going to need? I'm like, if I knew the answer to that question, I'd have it in there. But there's a few nights where I'm like, wake up in the middle of the night, like, I got to make sure we write this in the document. But really kind of having those conversations with him on an open dialogue. Like, these are the issues, these are the problems, these are the projects, this is where it is, this is kind of who's taking lead on whatever. That was a huge piece of the success. And when I came back, he had done the same thing. Like, he kind of kept a daily journal of all the decisions that he made, the issues, the topics, whatever. And it was great. I read through that and only had about 3,500 emails in my sabbatical folder.
Only 3,500?
Yeah. The staff took me off a lot of the emails, so good or bad. But before I left, I knew I didn't want to come back to an inbox of that many emails. And so I set up a rule where anything received between these 2 dates went into a special folder. Beautiful. And that way, when I got back, my inbox was going to be 0 still, which is a great way to start.
I like that.
But I had all the information that I might need. Yes. So kind of I went through all those. A lot of them, I was like, man, I get a lot of emails that I really don't need to read, like newspaper articles or whatever. Yes. But so coming back was actually good. I felt refreshed. I felt excited to be back. And actually, probably about 3 or 4 days before coming back, I had that. I'm ready. I'm ready to go back. I've taken a week or 2 vacation in the past, and it's not always been ready to come back. But this one, I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. I knew coming in back, though, it was like we had about 10 days to finish the budget. And I had no idea where the budget was at. I gave instructions of where I wanted it to be, and I figured that's where it would be. They even blew those out of the water for me. They did a great job getting most of that stuff done. So they took care of me while I was gone. They painted my office for me while I was gone.
In colors you were not particularly pleased with.
Yeah, of a sports team that I'm not a huge fan of, but it works. It's the decor ended up nice. So,
I like that. That's really funny. Is how through that process, how did they feel? Like, I'm assuming y'all have done a debrief since then. Say, hey, how did this work for y'all?
Yeah. So everybody seemed to come. Everybody took it in stride. Everybody said that it worked well for them. Probably the last department head meeting I had before I left on sabbatical, it was the police chief, and he's like, "Hey, what if this, that, or the other thing happens while you're gone? Should I call you?" I'm like, "Nope, do not call me. He's in charge.
Yeah,
you call him." He has the 3 and only 3 reasons why he breaks that emergency glass and contacts me.
Yeah.
But he's going to be able to help you out. He'll have the answers. And all the decisions he made, I can agree with. Like, I trust them. I trust all the staff. They've been there a while. They know what they're doing. They made good decisions while I was gone. And as long as you can explain a decision, and not just while I'm gone, but any day of the week, if you can explain a decision, how did you get to that point? What were those steps you took? If you can defend it, that's awesome. That's all I ask for. Like, make it make sense, and we're good to go.
Yeah. You hit on something really, really key to making this work is you did have a break glass in case of emergency, and it was 3 things or a handful of things, whatever it was. I think what's interesting when we start thinking about our jobs, it's easy for us to think about all the things we do and think we add too much weight to things. Like, oh, all these things are emergencies, all these things matter. But when you really boil it down and said, hey, if there could only be literally 3 reasons they could contact you, and outside of that, they're not allowed to contact you at all. What are those 3 reasons? And you start breaking it down, you start to understand that the emergency bucket is like a thimble. But we often treat it like a whole swimming pool, like everything's an emergency. And psychologically, it makes us feel good because we're so needed. Look at how big the job is, But to put that down and say, you know what, here's the 3 things. Right. I'm curious, what were those 3 things?
So if we had a hurricane coming towards us.
That's a big one. That would make sense.
Another one, if there was an employee that passed away or officer involved shooting, those types of things. Yes. That was another one. Those were the 2 big reasons. Yeah. So
that's it.
That's the only.
Yes. And I love that because you would want to know if there's a hurricane, right? Like, that matters. Like, those are, I think these sabbaticals and these vacations we set up and we say, okay, what are the reasons I would come back? It's very limited. It's about massive, massive emergencies or people getting hurt. Like, we're going to talk about that. Yeah. I think that matters.
And that was one of the things last year. I was on vacation the first week of July 4th. Up in Minnesota, enjoying some time on a lake, and get a text to like, hey, there's a hurricane coming.
I remember that. You flew back early.
Yeah. So I left family vacation, left my wife and kids up north with grandparents, and I flew back to a hurricane and 4 days without power. Luckily, the generator was working at our house. But, it's one of those things where last year, every time I tried to disconnect and get away for that week, like something happened that pulled me back in. With the derecho in May, I was supposed to be gone for a graduation. Canceled that trip to deal with the aftermath of all that. So it was heading into the sabbaticals. Like, I haven't had a real time to get away for too long, and every disaster is just. It seems to be piling up. And so that was one of the reasons for the ask of a sabbatical is I needed that time to get away, which was great. So we did our hurricane preparedness drill this week and, sat down in the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, and the drill starts, and like immediately I can feel my blood pressure climbing up, and like I'm getting a little tense, and I'm like, oh, this is not something I expected from a drill. But I recognized it like right away. And I was like, okay. So I was able to take a few deep breaths and do what I need to do to calm that back down. But it was interesting to me to recognize how quickly you get into that hyped up state of mind when you're facing an emergency situation.
Well, and when we're always in that state, when we talk about the signs of burnout, and one of them is overwhelm, which is when little things seem like really big things. It's a loss of perspective. when we're in that state, everything seems like an emergency. And so we could treat a director's meeting like we're in the EOC and all of this is happening, right? And when we're always in that state, we don't notice the difference. But when we disconnect and go, oh, here's what it's like to not be in that just rushing from thing to thing mode.
Yeah.
And here's what it's actually like when we're back. One of the things you talked about before we started the cameras rolling was just about the detox period, is what you called it, of getting into rest. Like it's not like you just started your sabbatical on a Saturday and you're instantly resting, right? It took time, didn't it?
It did, yeah. So it was Friday night. I deleted the Teams and Outlook from my phone, so those apps were gone, and that was just kind of like, oh, what? It'll be okay, right? This will be fine. It's fine. Yeah. Everything's fine.
Yeah. It's like a drug addict that just committed to no longer do drugs and is flushing everything down the toilet, right?
It was a weird feeling. And then when I open up my phone, like my home bar only has 3 icons and it's supposed to have 4 because Outlook's there. So that was a weird thing for the first couple of days. But it was probably, that Wednesday before I was like really kind of unplugged and really ready to just relax, or I could relax, because before I was thinking about whatever topic from the council meeting the last week or whatever project that's going on. But enough repetitions in my head, like, hey, they've got it. I'm good. I can relax. They don't need me. They did a good job. And but it took that three days to get that mindset, change that mindset of I can relax.
And to not reach for the phone every 15 seconds when it's quiet, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. We were talking about the idea that I think that's why a lot of our vacations don't work, is if we are always in that mode and we don't really rest well in the evenings, which most people don't. We don't really rest well on the weekends. We don't actually know how to rest. We are so addicted to just the dopamine hits of checking tasks and being needed and all the emergencies we dive into. And so if you take a 5-day vacation and it takes 3 to 4 days to actually breathe out, well, then you're packing up and coming back home, I think that's why most of them don't work. And we've got to get bigger, because I think every city manager should have a sabbatical like this. I think it is vital to the health and honestly to the creativity. My guess is you probably had a ton of ideas come to you while you were on sabbatical that you kind of wanted to reach out to your team and work on, didn't you?
Yeah, there was definitely, I took the time to read some books, some leadership books or other books that I wouldn't normally read. But there was definitely things where I was like, hey, this is actually a pretty good idea. So I made some notes. I did not reach out to the team. I was not going to break that glass. But I definitely,
because once you break it, it's broken.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. We did trade a few barbs over sports teams while I was.
That's fair. That's allowed.
That's more the friendship level. But yeah, I had a list of things of topics that I'd read about, thought about, projects. So definitely was making notes throughout the sabbatical and kind of worked that into the conversations with the staff when I got back. But that was definitely a restful time and a time to rejuvenate. And it's been a while since I've done that, and really kind of came back feeling great. Putting it all away was fantastic. Definitely, I do recommend it for other city managers too. It's not easy. I've been in Jersey Village now for 8.5 years, so it took a while to get there. And when you're, the average tenure of a city manager is only, 4 to 5 years. It's tough to get a 5-week sabbatical or anything like that. But it's definitely vital.
I think you've hit on something there, because when it feels like your job is always in the balance, what if they find out they don't need me after a month? Like, I guarantee you that thought stops a lot of city managers from doing that. And at TCMA, when we recorded the live episodes, one of the things we landed on as a group is like, when you're a city manager, you have to hold that job with an open hand.
Right.
If you ever say, no, this is the place I'm going to be forever, you're going to make a lot of bad choices for yourself, a lot of bad choices for the city, because you're trying to hold on to something versus saying, hey, if this is not a city where I can build a fantastic team and disconnect for 5 weeks, maybe this is not the city for me, and that's okay.
Right.
And that's hard for a lot of people to accept, especially you got young families that would mean moving and all that kind of stuff. But I think it is possible for everybody. They just have to embrace it. And I think it's valuable for the city itself too, because you show up then for a pretty extended period as a much healthier leader because you're rested. They get the value of all the new ideas and the new creative ways of thinking. And so I think there's something there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And, one of the things for me coming back is like I felt refreshed and able to kind of stand up to some things. There was a few my first week back, like there was just a few emails that were not pleasant from residents.
Yeah.
And I was able to kind of stand up and say, hey, we're neighbors.
Yeah.
Like we can have a constructive dialogue about issues and debates, but I'm not going to like, we got to stay above board. Like, let's not be throwing around insults or anything like that. Because we're neighbors. We're in this together. And that for me was a big thing of just kind of setting that boundary again.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. That's been good.
That's a good example of holding it all with an open hand, right?
Yeah.
Because the closed hand, I've got to hold on to my job, says they can say whatever they want to say. We just got to make sure they're happy at the end of the day, right? Because I've got to please them to keep my job. Versus open hand of, hey, I'm going to push back and we're going to do this together.
Right.
And if you don't want to do that, that's okay. But I'm in this with you.
Right.
That's a beautiful, and that response, would you have given that response when you're normally tired, running from thing to thing, haven't had a sabbatical, haven't rested?
Probably not, honestly. I think that was one of the things that coming back is like, okay, like I just felt a little more free with it. And I was not mean by any means. But I was like, I'm not gonna let you, say those types of things. We as neighbors, we owe each other a little bit of respect when it comes to that. So,
well, one of the things we're really talking a lot about these days is we have to have that commitment to the mission of the city, right? We also have to have a commitment to thriving. And if we're actually committed to thriving, we're going to have the hard conversation. Say, yes, we are going to serve you, citizen, and I'm going to set these boundaries so that we can thrive as a team. And being insulted is not, that doesn't fit within that boundary. So we're going to do this a different way. But you did it in a way that it was more partnership than anything, right?
Yeah.
I like that idea. We're neighbors and helping people remember that.
Yeah.
I wonder how often people think of the city and the city staff and they don't think of y'all as neighbors.
I think that's a great point. I mean, a lot of times they might not be, but in my case, they literally are my neighbors. Like I live in town, and we
it's
can
3.5 square miles.
Exactly. We're not that far away, and our kids might even play together at the park when we're there at the same time. It's like so we're in this together, and that's I think sometimes government on all levels can just kind of become a faceless bureaucracy that nobody really understands. Yeah. But the local level, it's definitely not that. You can reach out. You can call the mayor. You can call me. You can call any of the counselors, and you're going to get a response. Try that on the state level. Even you're not always going to get a response. But on the local level, that's where the things get done, and that's where the big impact happens. And that's because of the accessibility and the people living there and seeing the problems, like that pothole. Hey, we need to get that fixed. Or there's a sidewalk that's a trip hazard, or there's ramps down to the street, like crosswalks, those types of things. Those are things that we see and we can get done.
It's interesting you said that the cities are often faceless, right? And it can feel that way. Like it is the city of Jersey Village, and it's this big monument or this giant monolith, right? But I'm very blessed in what I get to do. Like every city we go into, I meet the best people. Like I meet people that want to serve, and they are often some of the smartest people in whatever their field is. Yeah. And they could go public, they could go private and make more money doing it, but they want to do it for the betterment of society. And that there is something truly noble about that. And that's why I love putting a face to it, to say, look, this is not a faceless monolith. These are people, and these people have hearts, and they are excited to serve. That to me, that's everything. It's so much fun.
Yeah, for sure. And I like to try and bring that out from behind the curtain for residents. I haven't been out great the last few weeks, but selfies with the city manager on Fridays. Yeah. Just pictures from meetings. What have we been doing? Events at the city, those types of things. Trying to highlight some of those stories that are going on behind the scenes that people don't know about. Yeah. Like right now, we've got Public Works is out painting the fire hydrants in town. One, to spruce them up, but two, to work with our branding a little bit more. And you don't often think of a fire hydrant as being a symbol of which city you're in, but we're starting to try and make that feel. Yeah. Same thing with sewer manholes. Yeah. I'm a big stickler on those manhole covers need to say Jersey Village and have our logo on it. And there's been once where an engineer spec'd out City of Houston ones. Like, no, that's not going to work for us.
We're not Houston.
We're the city of Jersey Village, and that's who we are. And so even those small details come back to that branding piece.
Well, it's funny you refer to them as small details, and that's where stories really become real to people, is in the small details. And it's always minor things that we don't think about. And it's funny. So there's an H-E-B right over here, and they have a gas station. That's always where I fill up. They're building a gas station just outside of our neighborhood. And my wife, we were driving by yesterday. She's like, "Oh, hey, that'll be convenient." I said, "Doesn't matter. I'm still going to H-E-B." And she said, "Why?" I said, "Because they think of detail." I said, "Every time I get gas anywhere, and I travel a lot, so I'm all over the place, I'll click, yes, I want a receipt." And H-E-B, I have never once had it go, "Sorry, go see the person inside." Every single time it spits out a receipt. Every time. Every other gas station you go to, it just like buzzes at you and it's like, "Go see the cashier if you really want one." I don't want one that bad, let's be honest. But just every time it comes out of H-E-B, I'm like, somebody has thought of this. Somebody has set up a system where they're changing them probably before they have to in order to make sure nobody has a bad experience. And you're hitting on something there with the amount of detail required to create a great experience and a great story. How have y'all kind of embraced that idea of story? Because I think y'all have done a good job of telling your story in a way that is innovative and interesting.
Yeah, and thank you. I feel like we have room to grow in that for sure. And up until now, we've not had a dedicated communications person on staff. It's always kind of been myself, Parks and Rec, a couple other people that all pitch in and do something. For this upcoming fiscal year, we are getting a communications person, so I'm very excited about that.
That's exciting.
Yeah, somebody that can kind of take from every department and tell that story even better.
Yeah.
We're going to work with a company to try and help us learn how to do that, help this new person learn, but really get into the storytelling of why we're doing and how it matters, whether that's code enforcement or building inspector or utilities, those types of things. The people and positions that you don't see all the time, you don't learn about all the time. In Jersey Village, police and fire are always talked about at the council meetings. Everybody loves our police department and fire department. We have great ones, but our police chief said it great the other day. Is like, it's a team. Like, if we don't have good streets, then we don't have roads for the police officers to drive on. If we don't have a great water system, the firefighters can't tap into the hydrants. Like, it's all none of these departments within a city operate in a vacuum. And that's, for me, that was kind of eye-opening for my own staff to realize that and talk about it and bring that out to the forefront and tell the story. Exactly.
I think you have just inspired me. It's team over here, write this down. We're going to write a children's book. Because I think I got thinking about, why is it we do look at the police and the fire and they're on this pedestal, and because they're heroes. They really are. I don't know that it's less heroic to do all these other things within a city. And I think there should be a children's book that helps kids understand, here's what public works is, and here's what finance is, and here's why all these things make us better. I think that would be a really interesting project. So thank you for the idea.
You're welcome. There's been a few, ICMA, they do a coloring book for kids on people in the city.
Amazing,
and,
yes.
I've gotten someone handed them out to kids and stuff like that. And that's been a great way to get that. I think another great thing, this is going to sound a little weird maybe, but another great thing about to showcase local government and city management is Paw Patrol. Yeah. My kids are young enough, they loved Paw Patrol. And every time we'd watch a Paw Patrol, I'm like, "Ryder's a city manager." They're like, "No, he's not, Dad." I'm like, "Yes, he is. Ryder is totally a city manager. You've got the mayor with her chicken and, she's always there, but Ryder's the one controlling all the pups, or not controlling, but telling the pups where to go, what to do. He's the city manager." And you got all the pups, which are all the departments. And it's city management just on a kid's scale. Then you got Parks and Recreation, the TV show, which is city management for the adults. Both are great.
That's really funny. I tell you what, we're going to do another show in the future where you and I will sit down. We'll break down Paw Patrol, the characters. We'll break down Parks and Rec.
All right.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Not where I expected this conversation to go. I kind of love that. So I'm curious, because you've been in this a while and you are passionate. I've kind of watched you interact with people on LinkedIn and even in person at conferences. I've noticed you sit down at a conference at a random spot and people just kind of do this. And a lot of it is you're very passionate about the next generation and bringing people up in this business. And so you probably have conversations with them all the time about advice they should embrace really early in this career. And so what are those things that you tell them that you, if you could have learned this earlier in your career, would have been super helpful for you?
Yeah. No, that's great. I've got a couple people on our staff that I'm mentoring, and they came to me and asked, "Hey, I see what you're doing, and I really like
You
that
didn't just
style."
grab them in the hall. I'm your mentor now. That's not how it works.
No,
Okay.
no. It's like they see what I'm doing, LinkedIn and
Yeah.
personally, professionally, and they're like, I want to, those are values that I want to emulate.
love that.
I want to grow in myself, and so that's been a lot of fun for me. I think the big things that I try to talk with them about are setting the goals. Where do you want to be personally and professionally? What are the goals for your department that you're in now?
Yeah.
And then how are you handling the tough conversations? Because it's not always just tough conversations with the staff below you. It's tough conversations upwards, with me, with council, with them and their department heads, perhaps. And those are three things, in my opinion, that you've got to do if you're do well if you're going to become a leader in a city.
Yeah.
Is you have to have the tough conversations, you have to be able to set the goals, and you have to have that vision for where you want the departments to go. So that's been fun for me, talking with college students, either undergrad or graduate. I always enjoy going to the University of Houston. I get to talk in one of their classes once every fall and once every spring, and it's fun to help them understand a little bit more of the role of local government, especially the master's degree students who are. Some of them are looking to get into local government. Some of them are like nonprofit, those types of things. But I always try to, I love local government. I try to get them to see the joy of local government.
Yeah.
I use my experiences, of working on the federal level as a White House intern, working the state levels, state House representatives, and seeing all those levels of government and how you can impact in each of them. And for me, I could see some impact, but you can't touch it and feel it. Whereas local government, you can fix that pothole, you can do the parks, you can do the flood mitigation efforts, you can write those grants and bring those funding dollars into the community. So that for me is why it's local government, and so that's why I try to help other people understand as well.
Well, it's funny, the impact you can have at the national level is larger, but it's also harder to tie that impact at that high level down to, okay, this individual person's life is better.
Right.
And that is kind of the magic of local government. You can look at literally everything y'all do and point to a resident and say, here's how let's connect the dots.
Right.
As you mentioned something there about writing the grants. I know that's a passion project for you, is writing grants, and being in a smaller town, like, you definitely need the grants. Is that something that, as you're kind of guiding young people into this, you're helping them understand how to do that better?
Yeah, it's a process for grant writing, and one, understanding that they can be a lot of work.
Yeah.
But they're very rewarding. And every funding source has its different pros and cons, and some are easier to work with than others. But understanding that this is a way that you can do big projects that you're not otherwise going to be able to do.
Yeah.
I love grant writing. In my time in Jersey Village, I've gotten like $31.8 million.
Wow.
Career-wide, it's even more. But every year for council, as part of the budget, I break that $31.8 million for this year, break that down into what that means for property taxes. Like, it's $1,200 for a home if we were going to do all those things without these grant funding. And it's years of delays on projects if we didn't have that grant funding. So that's been a big thing, and helping people understand that, just telling that sort of residents for sure, but also staff, like, hey, this is why I spend time on these grants, and this is what we're doing because of it, and how that's improving the city. But yeah, grant writing is definitely a skill that I encourage people to work on, especially college students looking to get into local government. Yeah. Just having that knowledge and ability is a good thing to have, for sure.
Yeah, I like that. Well, the whole point of this show, besides spotlighting leadership in public service, really is to have conversations about how we thrive. What are some things cities need to completely rethink to make sure that our teams are still able to thrive a decade from now, 20 years from now, that we need to put in place now?
Yeah. Building the support system for the staff. It's not always a great position. Not always a thanked position, I should say. It's a great position. It's not always a thanked position. If you go to council meetings, there's going to be usually residents there that sometimes they'll give thanks, but a lot of times it'll be, this needs to be fixed, or why isn't that being done? And that can be draining on people. And just trying to make sure that the staff understands that, but has ways to handle that. Talking it through with people around them, or EAP or those types of things. that can definitely be helpful. I think giving staff the time to be with families after children are born, that type of thing. Vacation time is a big, especially with the younger generation. A lot of people want more time off than even money sometimes. So just being able to provide the staff with the resources that they need to reset, to rest, to recharge themselves, so that when they come back, they're ready to go. They've got some great ideas. They've got a lot of energy. We can knock a lot of projects done, but understanding that we need to rest as well. One way I try to do that is I try not to send emails on the weekend. I still write emails on the weekend, but Outlook has a great thing called schedule send.
Which is really not hard to do.
No.
And yet I get so many people like, well, I need to do it in the evening. I need to do it on the weekend. Okay, let's assume that's true, which I don't think it's totally true. Let's assume it's true in most cases. Schedule it.
Right.
Don't do it immediately. I like that practice for you.
And that's one I took on probably during COVID. I feel like that's when I really realized the schedule send feature in Outlook. But everybody's hours were crazy. And, trying to do schooling at home with your kids and working and everything else. Scheduling those emails to hit somebody's inbox at 8:00, or in some cases, I knew that the person was going to be busy with schoolwork with their kid at that point in time. So theirs might go at like 2 PM, like just kind of hitting that. Cause when when one of my staffers sees, the city manager emailed me, has a question, they're going to jump on that. And if I really need them to jump on it, I'll probably call them or text them. I might not email, but if it's something a question I need an answer to, but I don't need it now, I'm going to schedule that out to be later. I think that helps kind of set those boundaries.
I love that.
Even when staff is on vacation, I've got a couple of people that I know they're not going to turn off their Outlook notifications, and they know that they can disconnect, but there's probably going to be about 10 emails that hit them at 8:01, 8:02 on Monday morning when they get back. Just because I try to not bombard them all at once, but giving them that time to step away and letting them know that, hey, I've got their back. If they're going to go on vacation for a week or two, don't be logging in to check your email. Well, there's a process in place for the staff that needs you to come to me, to come to a different department head, whatever the case may be. But we need you to unplug and to unwind while you're out, so you come back refreshed and ready to go. Because this is a demanding career, draining job sometimes. We need you to be on top of your game.
That's interesting. I've never seen a city do this, but I would love to see it where citywide they say, this is how we handle communication. Here's the purpose of email. Email is not for emergencies, which means we are not going to send it during these hours. How do we handle emergencies? We're probably calling or we're texting or whatever it is. But just to set a framework to say, here's how we as a city are going to do this. Because everything I'm hearing in what you're saying is we are considering the humans in this system.
Right.
And human need is something that has often been ignored. It's like, okay, we're giving you a paycheck. You are giving us this time. There's the exchange. Humans need a little more than just a paycheck.
Right.
And often they are giving more in this exchange than just the paycheck. There's the hours spent at night thinking about problems and navigating things, and the emergency periods where we're working an insane amount of hours. And so what I hear in that is, let's consider the people, because they are human beings. They're not robots.
Exactly. And when you can remember that, you're going to get better results from your staff as well. There's only so much that you can do, that a person can do on a daily basis, and making sure that they're resting, that they're getting their time away, their time with their family. Because if the family life is rough, everything that bleeds into everything else. The first week of school, like kids are getting back to school and into that rhythm, and that can be tough. And so you got a little more grace that first week of school, as everybody's trying to figure out the rhythm, and bedtimes are a little bit more of a fight or a struggle. And then you want to go to bed so much earlier too, because you're dealing with it all. But it's having that grace and knowing the staff well enough to know when there's something going on. They might not tell you, but you can see it in their face or their mannerisms or whatever. And you just know to, ask a few more questions or be gentler that day. And that's a skill that I've had to learn as well. Haven't always been great at that.
Well, and it often depends on how we show up, right? When I show up and I'm not doing particularly well, I may not be as focused on them and aware of how they're doing. Well, they may be really struggling. I just don't even see it. No, I just bulldoze them unintentionally. And so it's, how do we show up? But I think the other side of that is normalizing the conversation about how we're doing. We always talk about this idea that it's not just what we're doing, and that's all our meetings are, what are we doing? we have to have an element, if we're committed to thriving, that is, how are we doing in the process? Right. And the more we can have employees that are willing to come in and say, hey, I'm struggling right now because of X, and here's what we're going to do to solve this. Right. That conversation is beautiful, but it requires vulnerability. It requires saying, I think it requires leaders at the top who are willing to do the same thing when we're struggling.
Right.
And I think we always talk about vulnerability is that superpower, but it has to be paired with and. I'm struggling, and here's what I need, and here's how I think we're going to get through this. Right. Those two things together, we're going to be fine. Yeah. And it models for them it's okay to be human and do this job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do one of the coolest jobs in the world.
And I always like to ask my staff, what can I do to help? Because there's, somebody, if they're hiring a position, they're getting 90 some applications. They've got to go through all those, and they still have all their other tasks. Like, what can I do to help them out that's going to ease some of their process or their burden? Because that's what I like to be a team player. I like to help out. I like to pitch in when I can. So, and they appreciate that. They see that, and that goes a long ways too to helping them stay thriving and engaged. Yeah.
I love that so much. Austin, this has been the best conversation. It's been
a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for doing this. Believe it or not, it's been 53 minutes.
Oh, wow. All right.
I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on Leading Thriving Cities. If you lead people, how you show up as a leader determines how they go home. The first step to becoming a healthy leader is self-awareness. We have to understand how we're doing. To help with that, we have created an entirely free resource just for you. This is our Self-Reflection and Leadership Health course. This is a free online course that will allow you to start a rhythm of self-reflection, which will help strengthen your self-awareness. You'll understand how you are doing as a leader and how you're showing up to your team. This will allow you to create and decide how you want to show up. You can find all the information and sign up completely free for you and your team at forwardpartners.net/reflect.